Welcome to History with the HiToms. Andrew Selover with the HiToms President and Greg Suire here at historic Finch Field. And over the past 3 days, over 600 college and high school baseball athletes have heard their names called to the professional ranks in the MLB Draft in 2022. 7 HiToms heard their names, and it began on day one in the second round with Carson Whisenhunt to the Giants.
Yeah, great lefty from Moxville, right down the street. I mean, Wiz really excelled in the summer of 2020. Just a phenomenal pitcher, great competitor. What a bright future for the young man from Moxville, North Carolina.
Certainly Whisenhunt on day one. 3 more HiToms on day number 2. It began with 2 UNCG guys in the 6th round. It was Alex Hoppy, a guy that was also a part of the 2020 team.
Yeah, he sure was. He teamed up with also Ryan Cusick, right, who was a first rounder last year, and of course with Wiz. What a great team that was. And oh, by the way, hitter of the year in 2020, Hogan Winchester, also from UNCG.
That's who we're getting to right now. It was to the Red Sox for Hoppy in the 6th round. In the 7th round, it was Hogan Winchester to the Mariners. Played 2 years with the HiToms, 2020 and 2021. Hit .443 for the HiToms, CPL hitter of the year, as you said, Greg, in 2020.
Yeah, and you know, I saw Hogan in 2019 against the HiToms for the Curtisville Bulldogs, and I think it was opening weekend. He hit 2 home runs against us, and I said, oh, we need that guy next year. And sure enough, we were lucky enough to get Hogan, and he spent 2 great seasons with the HiToms. Really, I thought should have been in the final 2 for the 2021 CPL hitter of the year, but nonetheless in 2020 he was the hitter of the year in the Coastal Plain League.
And a couple HiToms this year out of UNCG, maybe Mitch Smith, an all-star. Keep your eye on him in the future years for the MLB Draft. And then it finished up on day 2 with Brody McCullough out of Wingate, a guy who had a .63 ERA in 2020 for the HiToms, and he's headed to the Chicago Cubs.
Talk about blowing up. I remember when Brody was here in the fall league his senior year, and he was on one of my teams, and I was like, you know, he's pretty good. And I'd heard he had committed and signed with Wing, and I was like, well, I think there's something to work there. And Brody just kept working and working. And sure enough, when he got in this environment in 2020 with all those great players, man, did he assert himself. And as a matter of fact, he asserted himself against the Cross kid, who was the first-round draft pick from Peninsula on a Sunday afternoon here in late July. Just really had a great inning, had a great game, 5 innings pitched that day. Of course, I think he only allowed 1 run. And from that moment, I knew the star and the skies were the limit.
And then 3 more HiToms taken on day 3. It began with Michael Turconi out of Wake Forest. He goes in the 15th round. He hit .344 for the HiToms in 2020 rather, and he's headed to Toronto.
Sure, another great left-handed hitter, great infielder, can play anywhere really in the infield in the diamond. Stuck here to the very end of 2020. And again, exciting times for the Wake Forest Demon Deacon.
All right, and then it was Angel Zarate, a UNC Tar Heel, in the 17th round. He's headed to Cleveland. Angel Zarate hit almost 400, 398 in 2019 for the HiToms, and he's headed to the Blue Jays.
God, one of my favorite players over the last 4 years. And not only as a person, but man, he can just do so many things well. He takes great approaches to ball and balls in center field, has a sneaky strong arm, of course, from the outfield, and boy, is he hard to strike out. In a day and age when strikeouts continue to rise, that is not Angel Zarate's game. Great days ahead for the young man from Rockingham County.
Well, you speak of not striking out, another UNC Tar Heel on this year's team who hasn't struck out much, just 4 strikeouts for Eric Rinson. He's hitting better than Zarate did at .434 right now for the HiToms, and he could be next.
Yeah, Eric was on that 2020 team as well, and great things ahead for that young man. Great power, love him behind the plate. The sky is the limit for him as well.
And then one last HiTom gets drafted at the buzzer in this 20th round, Brendan Tinsman, a guy that didn't have the opportunity to play too much in 2020 due to injury, but great to see him headed to the Angels.
Absolutely. And again, it was a wonderful summer for us. I mean, to be honest with you, looking back now, it sure did make sense for the HiToms to play in 2020 because a lot of young people got great opportunities and furthered their career.
That they did. More HiToms getting opportunities this summer. Make sure to come out and see all the HiToms that could be next in the MLB Draft as the HiToms make a playoff push in the last 2 weeks here at Finch Field.